You're watching the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich. Welcome back to episode 17 of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with my host, Matt, and I am the co-host, Richard. We're both hosts, but I like to switch it up.
Don't sell yourself short. People are here for you. I'm here because we need someone to pretend to have opinions. So
we got good
what's
guy
on the docket today? Because I think there isn't a whole lot to talk about except for we can talk about some free agents, a little bit of a Connor Geeky situation. I want a little bit of context for the hockey development camp that just happened, the prospect camp. I liked a little bit of what I saw. Only got to go to the red versus white scrimmage, which is weird. It's actually black versus white, but doesn't matter. All right. That's all I got. Is there anything else you got, or should this actually be a shorter episode? Watch it be 2 hours.
We also do have a trade. We had a trade with the New York Rangers taking on one of their worst defensemen that they absolutely threw under the bus this season. And yeah, I guess we can hop right into that trade to make it just run through this. We're speed running this episode because
speed running. I can't keep up.
Yeah,
where the hell are my notes on this trade?
We're recording a little late here because I was in Utah at like 10 p.m. last night. And we drove all the way from like the border of Utah back to Phoenix, which was like a 5 to 6 hour drive. So I
loved it. He shot me a text last night. Hey, he sends me his location like on maps. Like, hey, this is how long it's gonna take me to get back home. And he's like, so can we record at like noon tomorrow? I'm like, yes, thank God, because I got back home from playing Pokemon with my brother-in-law, and I'm like, yes, because I got a video to do tonight, and I got some editing I could do in the morning and stuff I could get posted. So like, yes. I mean, no, of course, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Not like it benefits me, and if it didn't, I wouldn't care.
Since it inconveniences me so much, I'm willing to reschedule. But anyways, about this trade, it's a pretty good one. Once again, Bill Armstrong just doing his magic. No firsts we've seen yet being picked up for these cap dumps, but just a plethora of second-round picks. The current trade was Patrick Nemeth, who was one of the Rangers' worst D-men. I've heard from Rangers fans. I don't actually know. I don't watch a lot of Eastern hockey. But they said that he was a big detriment in the playoffs. He gets traded over. His $2.5 million contract gets moved off the books. And on top of that, we have a couple of picks and conditions. So the first pick that is guaranteed is the 2025 second-round pick that is guaranteed to go to us. The next pick is the 2024 third-round pick, but condition is if the Coyotes do not want to use that pick in 2024, in 2026 they can take another second-round pick. So just absolute shenanigans going on with Bill Armstrong here. 2 second-round picks for a guy who has a $2.5 million cap hit. We know Bill Armstrong's probably not going to go on that third. I think he'll just save the assets and continue to pick up these second-round assets to potentially do what he did this year, which is, hey, I'll give you 2 seconds. Here's a late first. I'll go to number 11 and pick up Connor Geeky. Before we talk about Connor Geeky, though, I want to say what the New York Rangers got back in that trade, which was Ty Emberson.
Stop. They got nothing. They got nothing. Look, as someone, I take the notes for the Roadrunners. I try to watch as many games as I can. I went to a couple last year. If we're talking about it in a trading card game sense, right? It's like, oh, you discard this card so you can draw 2. That's the card you want in the graveyard anyway, all right? So it's like, it's not a cost. Literally, they free up the roster space. You get another young defenseman in there because, yeah, you lose a right shot defensive prospect, 22 years old. Over the last couple of seasons in Tucson, you have 5 games in 2020, 2021. 1 goal, -1. Not bad in just 5 games. And then last year, bigger role, 58 games, 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points. -25.
Yep.
He isn't that good. And here's the thing. If he goes to New York and he plays better, great. He wasn't going to do that here.
Nope.
So I'll take the shot of getting this extra couple of assets because when it comes to the Coyotes fans' perspective, not if Tyler, for whatever reason, watches this, not if his like girlfriend or mom watches this, whatever, it's fine. We're talking about it from a business perspective, not from he's a not valuable person or something, but not exactly a cost. Like let's not pretend that's a cost. And then Bill with this foresight. I love it. I think it was Craig Morgan who was reporting on it that he told him he wants draft picks just for the next 3 to 5 years. There's one thing to focus on 2022. He wants to keep stockpiling them, and in my opinion, that is phenomenal. That's exactly what the Coyotes need, because you are guaranteeing a consistent flow of solid young talent coming into the system. I'm surprised more teams don't end up engaging in stuff like that. I think it's really forward-thinking. On top of that, like you just said, a very good point. You know what? We don't like this 27th overall pick. Let's just give a couple of seconds. We have 10 of them. We own the second round, and we'll just go get another first-round asset and still get out with a good player, because again, it's options, and I love it. The cost is almost nothing. Emberson really didn't do much of anything in the system. Best of luck in New York, and with Nemeth, it doesn't really matter about that cap hit. It's only 2.5, so I think the compensation's fair. The 2 seconds or the 1 second and a third. I think that's why we haven't seen a first round yet, because the Coyotes haven't taken a huge, terrible contract back like a Jay Beagle like we saw last year.
JVR. I can't believe they pulled themselves out of the Goodrow running because they refused to give us a first for JVR.
You want to talk about that in a second after we're done with the Nemeth thing? I think that could be a fun... All right. So with Nemeth, I like his size, 30 years old, only 2 more years left. Worst case scenario, here's the way I see it. He's your 6th or 7th defenseman, takes up a roster spot, so you do not need to force a kid in the look. How many times last year did we have just a couple injuries, too many kids that were playing, too many guys that were kind of getting forced in roles that weren't quite ready for yet? It's valuable reps, valuable games played, but you don't want to overexpose, lose confidence, brings them back in their overall development. I think that's what I'm excited for about this trade. Good size, should provide at least some decent leadership. But I'm not looking for him to bounce back 10 goals, 20 assists from the blue line. He's not going to be a power play quarterback. He's not going to be an Ilya Lyubushkin big shutdown guy. He's just going to be an NHL player that hopefully in a less stressful environment, because you see it a lot. Some guys just don't work out in certain markets. Coming over here, less stress, accepts his role, might even play a lot better. Might even increase his value and be a deadline asset or a next offseason asset. I like the trade a lot, honestly. I know it sucks to give up a right shot defenseman, but I'll take a guy that's NHL ready right now and 2 draft picks over someone that was probably going to flame out. I don't think he even had a contract when they traded him. I think he was just an RFA.
I think so. I think that's correct. Just a quick thing I was going to say about Ty was I did like him in development camp a few years back. He looked good, but it just never worked out in the AHL. When we talk about those plus minuses, him, Soderstrom, they were big detriments on the blue line. And obviously Soderstrom gets a bigger leash because he's a higher draft pick. They don't want to just give him up for nothing. So the scapegoat is Ty, unfortunately. Best of luck there. I hope you can at least be consistent, maybe a 7th defenseman kind of guy. Who knows? But another thing to talk about with Patrick is that he's an older guy, right? You still have a lot of youngness on this blue line. You're losing Strawman this offseason, so you need an older guy to help teach these kids and how to be professional, right, on and off the ice. And so I think that's great. Like, it's great to have that around in your locker room. This team's not going to be, as much as you like to think, this team's not going to be anywhere near the playoffs for a while. So it's good to have that good voice in the locker room.
I am such an enigma. I'm so hopelessly optimistic. I'm like, yeah, I can see the potential. This team, even as soon as last year, could have been making some late season runs towards not bottom 5 in the league. Didn't mean they were going to do it. It just means that I saw they had the roster. Whenever you look at the young pieces still can take some time. They could not. But let's talk about how the Coyotes were almost part of a Johnny Gaudreau trade, in essence. Because when you think about it, if you are trying to trade, the hockey guy said it, so I'm citing the source there. Like, that's the proper way to kind of diagnose it. If you're trying to get rid of cap to bring in a guy, that team you're trading that guy to is essentially part of a 3-team trade to get this free agent you're trying to sign.
Yep.
And I found the balls on Philly to be funny. All right, look, I know you can look at the Coyotes, whatever. What a joke of an organization being like, hey, you have an opportunity to get an MVP type player on your team. You're trying to get yourself, into some sort of relevance. You keep touting like you're supposed to be a good team, and then you're like, I don't want to give up a first round pick. If you're supposed to be a good team, first round picks don't matter. Let's just put that flat out there. Second, third, whatever, sure. But first round picks don't matter if you think you're a playoff team, you think you're a good team. So I'm looking at it like JVR isn't doing what you need. You want to get rid of him, and then like, oh well, they weren't willing to put a first round asset on there. Well then, guess what? I'm not willing to take your terrible contract. Yeah. All right, if we're helping you get Johnny Gaudreau, I want something for it. If I'm not getting something for it, sit and spin. And now I have no idea what they're doing. It's kind of like Pittsburgh, similar feelings. I'm like, you guys are kind of both jokes right now, and I can't wait to watch like some of these teams start to crash and burn. That's just me as someone who's like, look, Pittsburgh could have got themselves out of cap hell this year. Philadelphia could have got themselves out from under a bad contract and tried to push themselves forward somewhat.
Yep.
No idea what their game plans are, to be honest. I mean, Pittsburgh, they think they're still going to be competitive. Maybe they're a second wild card team. Don't really care. But like, what are your thoughts on this? Because it made me laugh. My only reaction was just that I don't want your terrible contract.
So, to me, like, when you look at last year's movement with Philly, I always forget the name of their GM. Is it Fletcher? Is it Chuck Fletcher? Their GM, like, committed big last year and doubling down, going for Rasmus Ristolainen, going for, like, moving out Gostisbehere, doing a lot of things to try to keep this team competitive, and then this year it's like, oh, we're not going to do that, especially when you have a free agent like Johnny Gaudreau, who had, finished second in points last year? He's a good asset. He was willing to go for like $10 million, just slightly south of $10 million. He wanted to go to Philly, obviously. He wanted to play there. He grew up there. He grew up watching that team. He wanted to make them successful.
You're telling me New Jersey, Philly kind of area over there. Like there's a kind of a big spectrum.
So let's say, because everybody's been doing this now, let's say you top three protect your draft pick, right? Are you willing to trade a singular draft pick for Johnny Gaudreau? Is that a trade that you're willing to do?
Especially if it's top three protected. So let's just say it's fourth overall. Let's get cheeky with it. Mm-hmm. Would you trade fourth overall for if you think you're competitive, if you think this is what's going to get you over the hump, back in the playoffs, whatever? You're not in the mindset like Arizona, we're tanking. You think you are making a move.
Yeah.
Would you take a fourth overall pick for Johnny Gaudreau? I would. If I think that's going to put me over the top instead of having to wait 2, 3, 4, however many years it takes to develop a kid, I would make that trade. But I think it's kind of the similar effect of the Vegas expansion versus Seattle's, where teams kind of learn their lesson. I feel like finally teams might have start learning their lesson of, oh, let's not just throw a bunch of draft picks around. Not all of them. It's still going to be funny to watch a lot of these teams just throw them around and be terrible forever. But I feel like that might be something that's going on if I have to actually give it 3 seconds of thought, because why else would they be so adverse to doing that? Because Johnny Hockey over 100 points last year, if my memory serves, he's not going to do that if he went to Philly. He's not going to do that again this year in Columbus. But the fact that he's still about a point per game guy, I would trade fourth overall for that if I thought that would actually help.
Yeah, and like the question you have to ask yourself, if you're not making that trade for Gaudreau, what are you doing? You're stuck in purgatory. You might as well just start trading like assets out in Philly. Like, why are they not just tanking now? They should be trading assets out. If you're not willing to make that trade, which is I think a great trade for them, if you're trying to keep going for it, you trade out JVR, a first, for Gaudreau. That's a great change of scenery for, a guy on your top six that you can plug in a new top six kind of guy. Like, why? Why are you not doing this? Like, you should be tap dancing to the writing the contract down for him. And I get it for Gaudreau. Like, I saw a lot of Flames fan get really mad. Like, why would you go to Columbus if you're, just stay in Calgary? Well, one, you don't have to cross customs anymore to go back home to your, to your parents, because I'm sure his kid will want to go and visit the grandparents. You're no longer having to go through customs anymore, which is a nightmare. The flight time is much shorter. He grew up in New Jersey, but it was like North and South New Jersey. I don't know. The New Jersey Devils are like in one sector, and like the other part of New Jersey is like sworn enemies with that part of the sector, and they like watch Philly, I think. I don't know. I'm not too knowledgeable on this, but essentially he was probably not going to go to New Jersey because like there's that sworn fealty there of like, this was my team growing up. I'm not going to go play for the enemy. And so it makes sense to go to Columbus because then you're like kind of in a neutral ground. It's a pretty good place, believe it or not. A lot of people like to harp on Columbus, Ohio, but it's a pretty good place to raise a family. It's a pretty place. It's not like a terrible place to raise a family. And you're still within an hour or two flight to the grandparents. It's not like this guy is desperate for money. You know, it's not like, oh man, how am I going to afford putting my wife and child on a plane to get them over? No, like that's like throwaway money for him, right? So he can do that all he wants, and you're still close to family. You're still going to be playing in Philly more often than you're going to be playing, you know, in Philly if you were on the Flames. Like, it makes a lot of sense for him. If Philly was never an option, like, take the next best thing. And for Jarmo Kekalainen, who's the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, holy crap, dude. Getting Gaudreau for less than $10 million? Are you kidding me? What a freaking pickup by Jarmo Kekalainen. That is an unreal... I don't know how that guy continues to do it, but if Columbus ever wins a cup, they better build a freaking statue of that guy, because he continues to just get it done. Even with all the problems that they have with trying to keep players around, that guy has continuously made that a better hockey organization every single year.
And I'm not going to lie, like, especially, you don't think about Columbus as, like, your traditional, like, hockey market or hockey destination. I mean, it's cold there, so obviously hockey, it's going to work, but it's good to see a fan base like that that's kind of overlooked, a franchise that, frankly, is overlooked, get someone as high profile as that. I was a big fan of Rick Nash, except for that stupid goal he scored against us. We're going to forget that. We're going to forget that for this conversation. But I was always a fan of that guy. I don't know if it's just because I'm a Coyotes fan. I'm more predisposed to liking those smaller or those niche, weird markets like, you know, Columbus, Carolina, Florida, you know, places like that. But it's just, I think that's a huge win for him, and I'm ecstatic for him, honestly. And then it's kind of add a little bit of context. Asterisk, I saw this in a tweet. I could be wrong, but it was like, hey, isn't Johnny Gaudreau's wife like a nurse practitioner or something? And Columbus is like a really big hospital. It's kind of in her specific area of expertise. They could have both got pay raises and new jobs, essentially. Yep. Then on top of that, I brought it up. Asterisk once more, slightly political talk, but when you just compare a lot of American markets versus a lot of the Canadian markets with lockdowns and different stuff where it makes it more difficult for people to cross the border, you to visit your family, have them come visit you. Yep. Legitimately, even if, you know, he wanted to play in New Jersey or Philly, whichever specifically, I think he grew up in New Jersey, but let's just say it was Philly for the sake of argument. At the very least, it's, hey, that's not really going to work, but Columbus is still closer to home and easier because I can just, you know, have my parents just kind of stay out here like a summer home or something, or winter home, however you want to think about it. I could have them live with me. I could have them stay temporarily. We can go over there more because we're playing more on the East Coast. No matter what, no matter how you look at it, he's still closer to family, even though it does feel out of left field. I don't pretend to know the guy. I don't know him. I don't know what the mindset was. Could have just been, hey, you have an exciting young roster and a little bit of cap space to see what we can do here. Maybe he wants to play with Laine. No idea. But when you look at those logistics, and like I said, end of the slightly political, you know, topics here, it makes sense from an American-born player's perspective to want to play in the States.
Yeah, I completely agree. To go back to where he was, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe he was raised in New Jersey, but he's like on the border of Pennsylvania, or not Pennsylvania. Oh my goodness, is it No, where is Philly?
New Jersey's lower than New York, isn't it? Is it like New York, New Jersey, and Philly's over here?
American education system, baby. What? No, but he's like he's like on the border of where Philadelphia is. So like it was like closer. That was like a closer team for him to go watch. I believe. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it worked. But he definitely did grow up cheering for Philly, and yeah, to take yourself out of that as Philly to come back around, you're dumb. You are so dumb. I'm sorry, but why? You committed last year to going for it. Didn't work out. Fair enough. Happens. Why would you not pick up a guy like this who wants to come home and play for your team? Like, why? Why would you not do this? All because you want to save a first that you could put protections on. Arizona's not going to be like, no, we're not putting protections on that. Like, it's pretty much bog standard now. Any first that gets traded, it's getting protections. The Colorado Avalanche that just won the Cup last year had protections on their pick that they sent to Arizona. Like, it's pretty much bog standard now that you're getting protections.
And honestly, that angered me because I said it at the time with the Dvorak trade. They should not have agreed to that protection with the pick swap. I'm like, no, it should be we get whatever's the better pick regardless, or we're taking Christian Dvorak and going home because they needed a center. But anyway, I've ranted about that before. I had to throw that in there again because I hate this trend. I'm like, look, if we're going to take a bad contract, if we're going to give you a valuable asset, I'm not accepting a top 3 protection. I don't care. Oh, then I guess you're not going to get, that extra first-round pick. Cool, you're not getting the cap space, and you're not getting Johnny Gaudreau. I guess it all works out at the end. But that's also because, you know what, I think it's fun to have like an Arizona team make East Coast teams squirm a little bit. Because now, regardless whether Arizona was in the running or not, which I believe that there were confirmed reports that they at least had discussions. Yeah. But that also could just be something I misremember reading. Regardless, the Coyotes might be partially responsible why Philly fans don't get to watch Johnny hockey. That's all I'm going to say because I am a jackass.
Well, speaking of jackasses, I'm going to call out all of you listening. Why are you not subscribed? Why are you not following to all of our platforms that you can find our podcast on?
That was good.
I'm just calling you out here.
I hate you. That was such a good transition. I'll never top it.
So, anyways, please, I'm gonna beg here for a second. Please, if you could, give us a like, follow, subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on. We are a small podcast. We could really use it. Come back around. We're going to be doing this all week, or not all week, every week, all off season. Yeah. So stick around. It's all Arizona, baby. It's all looking up.
We're just going to stop as soon as the season starts. We're just going to give up. Like, first game of the year, we're going to have like a special live stream podcast, right? And then it's like, oh, they lost. Well, time to throw the season away. Podcast is over until next off season.
Oh goodness! until next draft. But let's hop into, speaking of draft, let's hop into development camp. So development camp was this week. We had a good amount of information. Got to see a few players. I didn't personally. I was unfortunately swamped with work this week, so I could not make it. But we did have a big development where Connor Geeky, first day out in development camp, was playing hard. He had the puck skating along the boards. A defenseman trying to cut him off and cut him out of the play. Just kind of, they collided into the boards, and he went down awkwardly, and it did not look good. He was on the ice holding, I think, his hip or a leg or some lower body, and that is not what you want to see out of your kid that was just drafted a few weeks ago, and especially a high pick at 11th overall. We did get reports from Craig Morgan that luckily it did not seem like it was serious, but he was going to miss the rest of development camp, which is really unfortunate for the kid. I wish him the best luck, wish him a full recovery, and I'm sure he'll probably end up back in the big camp at the beginning of the season. I doubt he'll make the doubt he'll make the Coyotes this year, but at the very least, he can learn some more stuff during that big camp.
Yeah, that really sucked to hear, to be honest. I remember my wife, she quote tweeted, she's like, so that defenseman that gave him the buttery butt cheek, the guy that checked him. He's looking around like, so do you expect to make the roster now? Do you might get cut?
Yeah.
Look, if it was Logan Cooley, I'm calling for his head, but it's just Connor Geeky. Not to make it sound like oh, it's just him, but in reality, it seemed like a minor injury from what is being reported. So long as he's still there for training camp, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But whether he got a talking to or just got a couple dirty looks, I don't know if he was a little less physical after that first day.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was going to go because it was a whole week event. I was like, okay, I'll get Wednesday off and I'll go check it out Wednesday. Guess what? 2 days were not open to the public. Wednesday and Thursday. So all I got to do was go to the prospect game. And honestly, I saw a lot that I liked. Logan Cooley, wow. This kid is the real deal. I'll just leave it at that. He's just really good skater. Had one little fun play behind the net. He tried to flip it up over the goalie, either setting up Doan in front or
really?
trying to get off and back off. It's like it was showing off. And then Kyle Pereira gave me some good context yesterday. Like, hey, he kind of plays with a lot of confidence. Might be kind of easy to take advantage of, or might be a little bit arrogant. Paraphrase, but I could see it. I could definitely see it. He plays with a lot of swagger, and if he can just kind of rein it in a little bit in certain areas. Obviously, it's a development game. It's a scrimmage. I'm not expecting him to go out there like full discipline, but a couple little things to keep an eye on probably should be fine. But I was really impressed. I liked a lot of what I saw at a donor. Zuber, the sixth round pick. Oh, it's my other notebook. But I think he played pretty well. Carson Bantle is a menace. He's a bulldozer. One play he's going across the line. Defenseman's right on him. The defenseman was bigger than him. Hits him. Carson just shrugs it off. He essentially counters it, grabs the puck, and still tries to make a play. There's another play later on. I swear to God it was Zlinka, but it could have been him or Matika. I'm terrible with names and who was on what team. But he's coming down, a solid zone entry, defender right on him, and he does this weird, NHL 22, tuck move, gets it out from behind him, and gets the puck on net. I saw a lot of really impressive little plays like that. I think guys like Mannix Landry played pretty solid in the faceoff circle. Sam Lipkin, one drive that specifically impressed me, or at least I took note of. He's hauling it back down the ice to go cover defense, and he's calling out the plays, pointing to the guys, telling where he wants them. Yeah. And little leadership things like that, I think that's going to be great for a bottom six player. He's probably going to end up being.
Yeah.
And just I saw a lot of little things like that I really liked, and obviously they're playing against lesser competition because it's a lot of guys that were undrafted, unsigned. They're just trying to get a look against the Coyotes prospects, but still, I liked a lot. And then Jack McBain was the man among boys, and he was the black team was so underpowered overall. It was bad. He's on the black team. I think he had Ratu, who looked terrible. He just didn't look like he was engaged at all. And then Ben McCartney, the only real notable offensive players. And it was just McBain winning faceoffs, getting physical, getting in the corners and everything, and just trying to elevate these scrubs around him.
Oh,
and
no.
it took to the second period to get any real results. There was one pretty solid, I think it was a minute drive where they had it in the offensive zone and Donor and Cooley couldn't get it out, but that was kind of it. And I saw some frustration. It's a prospect game. Jack McBain was that locked in to a prospect game. I love every little bit of his game that I got to watch. I love how competitive he was. I don't know if it has to do with just I don't want to be here, or I'm going to show these kids, or what if the geeky and Cooley drafting made him feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
Kind of like how we were talking about how I said, I assume he's the kind of competitor that would light a fire. It's a small sample. Do not take it like, oh, we predicted it correctly or anything. But the little bit I saw, I'm really excited for this year because he's a competitor. Yeah. This man is a competitor.
And that's something that we haven't seen in this organization in a long time. Is that under that underbelly fire coming in from below? At any point you can lose your job, you can lose your position, and for the McBains, that's what we need. That's what we need for him to be elevated to be a professional hockey player for years to come, and you need to see that type of stuff. So I'm glad to hear that. That's great. That's awesome to hear that he's not screwing around. He's like, yeah, I'm still taking this very seriously, even though I am technically a prospect.
One more thing before I forget. It was Farinacci. All right, it was the first goal of the game. I think you'll appreciate this. He takes it across the line, and I'm very much finding myself like Kyle Pereira is really big on skating. He'll be higher on you if you skate well.
Yeah.
I love zone entries. I love being able to control that puck crossing the blue line and know what you're doing. The defenseman comes right up on him, and he just kind of muscles his way through, manages to fight through the contact, get to the net, scored on it. I think that was an unassisted goal. But
Okay.
it's just little things like that. Mr. Hard work beats talent himself. Yeah, no, the hard work was there, and I think you'd be pretty happy to hear that. A lot of the prospects looked good.
That's
I
great.
had to interject that. I forgot to mention it before.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Farinacci. I like him a lot. I think him and we got John Farinacci and then Matthias Michelli. I think they could play really well together. I think that would be a good tandem on the same line. But yeah, that's great to hear. I don't know what else to say about that, to be honest, because I
So
was
let's get
not
into
there.
free agents then. So if we don't have anything else to talk about prospects, get into free agents.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually trying to commit to a shorter episodes. We're actually keeping things moving. Pretty good pace. You can call me the engine of the deck if you like. Let's go ahead and talk about these free agent signings. So, first off, Josh Brown. I don't know if I confused him with someone else. I was kind of shocked they signed him. Not in a bad way. 2 years, $1.275 million a year, 28 years old, 6'5", big boy. Right shot defenseman. It's good to get more of those in the system, or on the roster. He's not in the system, on the roster.
Yeah.
Last year between Ottawa and Boston, 52 games, 6 assists, and a -7. For Ottawa in 46 games, that's where he had a -9 and all 6 of his points. For Boston in 6 games, he was a +2. I don't see Boston as like that great of a defensive team, so that probably says a little bit. They probably played pretty well. Sounds like he's going to be a guy where probably plays pretty decent this year, gets dealt at the deadline or dealt in the offseason. I like it. We need more right shot defensemen. Again, big boy. We were talking about it all the time. I was actually talking to my wife at the prospect game. Like, I think Bill Armstrong hangs out at like basketball practices. Hey, you, can you skate? Can you skate okay? We would like to hire you because he only wants the big boys. So, you got any thoughts on Josh Brown? Because I'm not overly familiar, but the numbers seem for that cap hit probably not a bad contract.
Yeah, for me, it looks like seventh defenseman type guy. We know there's going to be injuries. There always is with the Coyotes for some reason. So seventh defenseman probably slots in once there's an injury. Yeah, hopefully he sticks around. Big body. I'm curious to see what Andre Tourigny is going to do this year with how many freaking big bodies Bill Armstrong has pulled in.
I don't know how we can call him Bill the Builder. He's Bill the Destroyer. Bill the Bulldozer. He's just like, hey, I need these big boys coming in here. Next up, 1 year, $900K. This sounds actually cheap for this player. Former Wild center/right winger, Nick Bukestad, 29 years old, 6'6", another big boy. I'm assuming he's a bottom sixer. That's what it kind of sounds like. 57 games played last year, 7 goals, 6 assists, 13 points, -2. I'm not expecting huge offensive numbers. I mean, most guys that come here, the offense probably goes up because you're getting more play time, more favorable matchups and whatnot. But just in general, I'm not going to expect it. But that was a solid signing. I was surprised no one else had interest.
Yeah,
or at least had more interest.
Can you imagine? Because Bukestad's listed as a center right wing. He's probably not going to play center. Usually, I like what you said. You know, if they're listed as a center and a wing, they're probably a wing. Can you imagine a line, maybe your second or third line of McBain in the middle, a big body, right? Bukestad on one of the wings and Lawson Krause on the other wing. That is going to be...
If that's a third line, it's still going to be productive. Let alone, I like that.
Or maybe if you don't want Krause there, maybe you bump him up a little bit higher to get more offense, and you put Richie there. Like, either or.
I love that.
Like, you're just gonna...
That's the beef line. That's the big beef line.
That is the big, like... That is the headhunting line. You better be careful if you're on the ice when
and they can score. Like, that's aggression, that's size, that's defensive responsibility. I don't remember Nick Ritchie playing well defensively, but Jack McBain's very responsible on both ends from everything I've seen.
Yep.
Bukestad, just from what I'm familiar with, is also responsible. that's a dangerous sign on either side.
Yeah, and
not to keep cutting you off, I'm just excited by that prospect.
Yeah, and you also have Cassian waiting somewhere around there, right? Probably a fourth line guy, but
Yeah,
there's
he's
another
your
one
fourth line
who,
plug.
like, he's going to be another guy who's going to be headhunting out there. Like, I definitely see this team not going to win a lot of games. They're probably going to lose a lot of games 2-1 kind of thing. They're not going to have enough offense. I think all of your offense is going to be driven through the first line with Keller and Schmaltz and then whoever they put in the middle. But with that being said, this team is going to pummel the crap out of other teams. Like, they may lose a lot of games, but they're not going to be losing once they get back to that locker room. The real losers are going to be the team that has to play a mid to low playoff team. Like, we're not in the playoffs, but like a mid to low in the list team, and is still getting absolutely rolled, physically. So, yeah, I like what I'm seeing. It's big, it's physical, but there's still spurts of fast speed in there. Lawson Krause isn't a slow guy. Even though he's big guy, there's a lot of names on that list that are quick, like we were just talking about with McBain and stuff like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see. We've always seen this game of like cat and mouse where it goes back and forth, where like small speedy team wins the cup, and then everybody tries to follow that, and then big physical team wins the cup, and then everybody tries to follow that. Like, it's interesting. I like that Armstrong he's not following the trends. He's like trying to set a trend, right? So we'll see how that goes. Because the biggest thing that worries me is like you watch teams and they consistently jump back and forth like that. A good example would be, like a few years back, not Blue Jackets, the Blues. The Blues win the cup, right? And then all of a sudden everybody tries to get more big and physical, right? We see Tampa Bay try to get more big and physical. We see the New York Rangers try to get more big and physical. Like, that trend kind of goes back and forth. It ebbs and flows with like small speedy team versus big physical team. And yeah, I'm happy to see that he's not following the trend. He's kind of setting his own trend.
And I'll also go ahead and add, I don't think I don't see them losing winning less games this year than last year. Even if it's only one or two, I see them winning a few more games.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I think the top six will be better constructed because you're saying the offense is primarily going to come, or they're going to rely upon the first line. I'm actually going to argue it's going to extend to the second line as well, depending on what the pairings are. Because you have enough talent that it just depends on how they're dispersed, injuries, stuff like that. Well, I think there are going to be stretches where it's just the first line and they're losing or winning 2-1, whatever. But I think that there's going to be stretches where you're going to see a little more depth on that second line. But it's all going to kind of depend. Now, we got a defenseman. Troy Stecher, 1 year, $1.25 million. Another righty. I'm surprised they let a 5'10" guy in. I was 6'1" or higher.
Yeah,
is what I was told. But he's 5'10", 28 years old. Another right shot defenseman. Last year between Detroit and LA, 29 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, -7. I'm not expecting scoring. I'm expecting NHL player, bottom pair defenseman. I think Brown probably ends up on the second pair depending on who's all up on the team. I don't know if Soderstrom makes it or not, but let's just say he does in the first line.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say for Stecher except for we're getting a lot of 6th and 7th defensemen. Or no matter what, we're going to have an NHL body there.
Yeah, and that's great because you don't pull those young kids up out of the AHL now, and that's what I really like to see. As for Stecher, I liked him in Vancouver a lot. I didn't follow his career as much once he went to the East in Detroit, so I'm curious to see what he can do. He'll be probably an everyday NHLer on this team. What I do like, though, is that a lot of these guys are picking up one-year deals and coming to a bad team because they know that if they play well on a bad team, they can probably get traded. So, like you were talking about with Bjugstad and now with Troy Stecher, it wouldn't shock me if these guys are going, I could go play in Arizona and not freeze my butt off for 2/3 of the season, get paid more because there's less taxes here, and on top of that, I could take a bigger role because they need it. And you know what? If I play well, I can get traded at the deadline and get my shot on a playoff team. So I like the idea. I like what I see from both those guys.
I like this. Speaking of things I love this move. I don't care, quite frankly, what your opinion is on the next guy. I was a big fan of his when he was here. I don't know why it didn't end up working. You might have more context for that. Laurent Dauphin, coming back 1 year, 750K. It's a two-way contract, 6'1", 27-year-old center. The way I see this deal is he's either going to be a bottom sixer at the NHL, good benefit, or a top sixer at Tucson and help elevate them. So no matter what, I see value here. Last year in Montreal, 38 games, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points, -10 on the worst NHL team. So -10 isn't even that bad in context. What do you think? I like it because really low risk, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it helps fill out the. I'm assuming this is going to be an AHL guy that will have a chance to jump in the NHL when there's injuries. I'll be real with you. I don't watch much of Dauphin's game, so I don't really know him too well. But what I will say, which will be hyperbole, is, man, did he turn out to be a great pick in like NHL 12? Because he'd always turn out to be like a franchise player, but never allotted to that franchise player. So that's
all right. You know what? Let's talk about a player we both like. Let's you know what? The franchise player is back. He's going to take Tucson to the Calder this year.
Yes.
Let's talk about Boko Mama. 1
Yes.
year, 750K, league minimum, 2 years. 25 years old, winger, 6'1", good size. Last year, 4 games, he had the 1 goal, only a -2. I liked him in Tucson. When they traded Berkey for him, I'm like, oh, he's probably going to be bottom 6, make Tucson a little tougher to play against. He took a bigger role down there than I ever expected, and he came up here. The fans seemed to like him.
Yep.
He seemed to be a pretty decent fit. I wasn't sure if he'd have a roster spot here. They brought both him and Christian Fischer back, so I have no idea what the plan is.
yeah.
They just like big boys. They just get the big beefcakes out here, essentially.
I think I don't know if Christian Fischer is going to be an everyday guy, but he'll be like a healthy scratch guy. I don't think they're willing to get rid of him just because of how good he is off the ice. Everybody loves, like, everything they've heard about him, everybody loves him in the locker room. He's a guy who doesn't complain about his ice time, who consistently is, like, wins the good guy award inside that locker room. So I understood why they sent Fischer a contract. As for Bokonji, I hope that he fights O'Brien for that spot, right? Both those guys light a fire under their ass. Who's playing tonight, right? I expect Bokonji to play more in the healthy scratch side, and those two guys just go back and forth. Hey, O'Brien, you fought somebody, you kicked their ass. You get a couple of games. All right, now we're going to switch over to, give you a little bit of break so you're not feeling like you have to fight every single day. And we're going to put another guy in so he can go and be physical and get into fights and be scrappy and just kind of teeter-totter back and forth. I don't think it'll be necessarily like a fighting for ice time. I think that Tournier will give ice time to both of them, but just kind of allow them to recover because years back when Biz was talking about Paul Bissonnette was talking on Spit and Chicklets about how when he was an NHLer, one of the worst things is when you're one of these big scrappy fighty guys is you have to go through waking up in the morning and expecting that you're going to go and fight tonight. And it is a terrible feeling. It's a feeling that's not fun, right? It's like, am I going to get my ass kicked tonight? Am I going to get hurt? Because I have to go and fight to make sure that I stay here. And, I hope that can alleviate some of that pressure. Is like, what I'm seeing is like Tournier has both of them on the sheet, right? You go to morning skate, and then you get picked either or, right before the game. So that way you don't have that stress of, oh God, I'm going tonight. I have to fight somebody tonight.
I just think that. Look, I've never been high on Tuna. I'm not going to say he's a terrible guy. I like... When I'm looking at those enforcer types, I also like the ones that can still play hockey, can also still add a little bit of depth scoring if you need it. That's why I like Amama more than I like Tuna. So I'm like, I'm glad they found a way to get him back, and I really like to see him play more games this year because I think he's actually pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised, and watch now. If I ever meet Tuna, I'm gonna get punched in the face for saying that. That's fine. All right, last one. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say this real quick. I hope that for Fisher, because we saw the offense there when he first came in the league and it just hasn't stuck. I hope that he takes the Boyd Gordon route and makes it impossible for them to take him out of the lineup because he's doing all the small things right in the defensive zone. He needs to block shots. He needs to be a guy that everybody sticks up for, for everything that he does, whether he's taking shots to the gut for staying in front of the net, which I doubt he'll do, but, you got to be that player. If you're not going to put up a bunch of points, which is fine, you don't have to. You can still be an NHLer without putting up a ton of points. But do all the small things right. Play defensively responsible, block a bunch of shots, make it impossible for the coaching staff to take you out of the lineup.
And if he does that, honestly, I'll grow a new appreciation for him because you never hate a guy You just hate that they have a roster spot that you think could be utilized better by someone else.
Yeah,
and I think that was like one of the biggest sticking points for someone like me against Fisher. I'm like, dude. Like I saw it years ago. I'm like, offensively, you're just not that good. Why are you still like hanging up here? Like, I don't know. I like him a lot better as a fourth liner. To be completely honest, I think that kind of just suits him better.
Yeah.
Last signing. I have no opinion here. I'm gonna lean on you, and if you have no opinion, then we're gonna look real stupid. So don't make me look stupid.
Oh no.
John Gillies, 1 year,
Gillies.
$750K, 2-way contract, 28-year-old goalie, 6'5". Last year, he played one game with St. Louis, 282 goals against, 923 save percentage. That sound pretty good? No, not for long. 19 games with New Jersey, 376, 885. I assume AHL backup. I don't know if Tendick gets the net this year. I don't know if Thornton is eligible and gets the net this year. I assume that Prosy becomes the backup. The talks with Sateri just didn't end up going anywhere, allegedly or reportedly. There was a deadline, and he decided to go back to was it Finland or Sweden?
One of the Scandinavian countries.
I'm terrible with remembering nationalities, so it's not a personal attack. I'm American, but that's all it looks like to me. I'm still baffled they decided to keep Kozanash's rights. I assumed a trade was around the corner for it. I no idea what's going on there, but this should just be some goaltending depth.
Yeah.
This should mean that Prosy is going to be the backup unless they like someone else close to training camp. And with what Vejmelka did last year, I'm not going to start penciling in anyone as the backup yet because he stole a job, and Thornton probably stole a draft pick's job with how well he played last year in training camp.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm gonna go with, I think Thornton goes back to the not the AHL, to the juniors one more year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with that. I think he looks really good. If you've looked at any of his game time stuff in the juniors leagues, he's looked pretty solid. Will that translate to the NHL? I don't know, because goalies are impossible to tell. If you are a goalie coach, bless your heart. Or specifically a goalie scout, because holy crap, I don't know how you do it. I do like Thornton a lot. I suspect he'll go back to minors, and then for Gillies, I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to compete out of the big camp and fight for that second spot. I still think that it's Vejmelka's net this year. I'm confident in that. It's just finding a good backup for him, whether Prosvetov has finally arrived or he needs more time down the AHL. I hope not. I am very high on Ivan. You are too.
Mm-hmm.
But,
literally, I saw him as the goalie of the future 2 years ago. Like, I still think... I don't necessarily think he's going to reach that, like, solid number one potential anymore. I feel like, when you see guys, I don't know if it's just you overcook in the A, guys kind of, okay, they have that one good year in the A, then it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to be down here for a couple of years anyway, and it just kind of skids. At the AHL, there's just worse defense, so the product looks, the numbers look worse for goaltenders, but it's just, the ship might have sailed for him being the franchise goalie. Doesn't mean he still can't be a fringe starter. Doesn't mean he can't be a 1A, 1B. Doesn't mean he won't be a good backup. I still think that I'm still high on him that he'll be an NHLer. I'm just really hoping it's this year because, well, we ended up seeing with Capobianco that when they give you this last 1 year extension or last, contract, show us what you can do.
Yep.
If you don't show them enough, you're not going to be on the roster. And now I think almost all of my jerseys over here have former players.
if I had to go with, I think Gillies is the starter in the AHL, and then I'm thinking Ivan makes it out of prospect camp as the backup. And I personally really see Ivan being a guy where he might stay on the team maybe a year or two more, probably ends up in free agency and finds a starting role on a team and does well. We see it all the time with goalies. You're an AHL guy, or not an AHL guy, you're a backup guy, like a career backup guy, and then you end up on a team that needs you, and they shine, right? Easy example of this is Darcy Kemper. Literally was a career backup guy, ends up on the Coyotes, becomes a starter, wins the Stanley Cup. Now he's getting paid some big money over in Washington. Congratulations,
That's
Darcy.
not going to age well. Congratulations to Darcy. That's not going to age well.
No, it's not going to age well for Washington, but man, Darcy, nice contract, buddy. Nice.
Do you mind sending me a new jersey? Just your old one is not a Kachina.
Yeah. So that's what I see for Gillies, is probably a fringe backup guy. I don't see him. I still believe it's Ivan's backup net, and then Gillies will be a minor league starter.
Let's do a little side tangent because it's funny. I noticed it when I was taking some prospect notes, I think last night. So here's the first page. I was doing all the Coyotes prospects, and I was going to rank them top 10 for a video I did. Shameless plug. Does anything, like, if you can read that, does anything stick out to you specifically? Any markings, any names?
I see.
Any closer, further away?
I see a whole lot of defensemen.
Well, I was starting with defense. On the first page, I put an X next to players that I was eliminating.
Oh.
Bianco, he's a year too old. Emberson didn't really do much. And then I opened it up. I'm like, oh, both are no longer on this team.
Yes.
And I think that's the only guy that I put X's next to.
Do I need to get a candle so that we can have a morning session for you for losing your favorite defenseman? So, to go into news here, Capobianco did not get re-signed. He unfortunately went into free agency where the fake Winnipeg Jets signed him for 2 years. Blessed be. Thank you for your time, Capo. May you find luck in the fake Winnipeg Jets system.
Yeah, but to say he had to leave the real Winnipeg Jets to go to the fake Winnipeg Jets. Look, I'm excited for him. The Jets are a team I've kind of always had a soft spot for. I don't like their fans anymore. I found out a lot of their fans are really stupid. So, hey, we have your history. You guys don't even have your own history. Take that and just keep crying about it. But used to feel bad for you. Don't anymore. I want to see him.
I got one. Thank you for putting up our jerseys in your building. We really appreciate it.
But same thing as last time he signed a contract. I'm like, look, I hope he takes this opportunity and goes. I think for him, with the stalling out in his game, a lot of the bad penalties, some of the shaky decision making when he goes to pinch, and those are the times they end up going back on a 2-on-1 rush. There's a couple times he turned the puck over and a goal, went in that way. I look at it like he needs to either double down on the offense and start 10, 15 goals as a second line defenseman, second pairing defenseman, or he needs to reinvent that game kind of like the Christian Fischer model, the Boyd Gordon model, and just be Zbigniew McCulloch.
Yeah.
Block the shots, do all those little things, and double down on defense.
Yep.
I don't care which route he goes. I want this kid to succeed. Well, he's my age, but still. I want this guy to succeed. I've been a fan of this for a long time. It sucked when I saw the graphic that he went to the Jets. It's used to it. Connor Garland got traded. That was my favorite player. Lane Peterson also got traded for literally nothing. I'm also a Carolina Hurricanes fan now, by the way, because Lane Peterson's over there, so yep. I can root for them again. But that sucked. It's like a gut punch because your favorite guy's gone, but I'm still going to cheer for him, even if it means putting up with the dumb, stupid, fake Jets.
Yeah. I wish him the best. That's all I'm going to say. I see a lot of holes in his game. And I agree with you. If you're going to be an all offense guy, you better be a Keith Yandel type. You better be riverboat gambling. You better be rewarding the team more than you're hurting the team. And the problem is that he wasn't rewarding the team more than he was hurting it. So we'll see. I wish him the best.
I know at the very end of the season he had a couple goals and he an assist, whatever. Was getting back on the board. I was like, oh, that's a good thing. That's a good sign for things to come. He now retroactively headcanon. He was told they're not bringing him back next year, so it's like I need to make a good showcase for my next team.
Yep, probably.
Headcanon. But anyway, so that sucked. Was there anything else that we were supposed to talk about today? I feel like we got a lot covered.
I think we got
finally
everything.
Around the 1 hour mark. So it's if you got nothing else, what I'm gonna go do. So I'm gonna go light a little candlelight vigil, hold my Capabianco jersey, and play the first Pokemon movie whenever Ash dies. So I have a reason to cry because look at Pikachu just there, just trying so hard to revive his buddy. It's heartbreaking.
Gotta play, was it Sweet Nothing?
Oh, Careless Whisper. Like
Careless Whisper. Yeah.
What is it? In the Arms of the Angels?
Yeah.
I could do that ASPCA.
Yeah.
In the arms.
Yep.
I'm not actually going to sing. I'm not going to do that to you guys.
Yeah.
Unless. But me and Richie do have one big announcement. I would like you guys to please focus on this. This is serious business, and me and Richie have had some long, detailed conversations. So, Richie and I are going to be filming a movie together, and we need you guys to go to our OnlyFans.
Oh, that's right. We are.
Context, there's a tweet like, oh, you get $1 million, you have to make a hub film with your second act, and I kept doing it until I got Richie. And I was like, on the next pod? Yo.
Hold on here. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait, got it. Anyway, that was... Thanks for letting me waste your time. Go away. We don't love you. God isn't real. I'm kidding. Anyway.
Wow. Okay. You're
you
just
cut whatever you want the ending to be. You can have the ending to be. But leave us alone. Go away. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm gonna go mourn Capabianco.
You're straight into the scorched earth policy here right now, huh?
Just destroying everything. Look,
I hate to tell you.
Capabianco, they're all gone.
I hate to tell you, your parents ate the carrots. The cookie was bitten out of by your parents. There is no Santa Claus.
Neither is the tax man. Wait, no, he's real.
No.
There is no such thing as Maryland. That's actually just a myth.
Soon to be, there will be no California because it'll be Atlantis. Yeah. Anyways, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This went right on time. We actually did. We held ourselves to a respectable time here. And anyways, yeah, make sure to follow and like because we're gonna be doing this all off season. So
like, subscribe, comment, do all the nice algorithm friendly stuff. And to address a comment on the last segment, I only hate French Canadians.